Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by PSC&G, committed to providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future. New Jersey Sharing Network, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, moving the region through air, land, rail, and sea. Holy Name, PSC, where your story is our business. Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, working for a healthier, more equitable New Jersey. IBEW Local 102, lighting the path, leading the way. Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, and by New Brunswick Development Corporation. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ, and by CIA NJ and Commerce Magazine.
Hi, everyone. Steve Adubato. We kick off the program with State Senator Holly Schepisi, the Republican conference leader in the Senate. You are in an undisclosed location. Is that true, Senator?
That is correct.
You got it. And thank you so much for joining us. Hey, listen, we are taping this program in toward the back end of November. But on November 7th, there was an election. The Republicans lost seats in the Senate and the Assembly after winning legislative seats the last time the legislature was up. What went wrong for the Republicans?
I think it was a perfect storm of three factors. This was the first time in the history of the state where it was solely the legislature up for election with a new vote-by-mail system that Democrats have embraced and Republicans and a lot of unaffiliated have not. And so walking into Election Day, even in places like my district where I won, I was on paper down by over 4,000 votes. And I think until and unless we really get our own to embrace it, particularly the voters who may vote one in every four, two in every four election cycles, we'll continue to see these trends. I think the second factor is the Republican Party has been very poor on reproductive rights. And a lot of people, particularly women of all ages, have grave concerns because of the court overturning Roe v. Wade. And I think that really did play against us. And then the third was this improperly named Election Transparency Act, where we saw the most money ever flood into legislative races. And, unions, the NJEA, Planned Parenthood, a whole host of special interest groups pumped tens of millions of dollars into some of these races.
Many of the Republicans in competitive districts focused on so-called culture wars. Hey, listen, don't parents have a right to know if their sixth grade child is talking to a school administrator and potentially start discussing gender confusion or potential gender change? Parents have a right to know. What about books, banning books in certain schools, or in schools having to do with certain LGBTQ plus issues? Why run on those issues when affordability is the issue in New Jersey? Taxes, can't afford to rent here, can't afford to buy here. Why did so many Republicans get it so wrong on the so-called culture wars?
I don't think they necessarily got it wrong. I think we just didn't get enough people to turn out. Nobody, and that's what's interesting too. It's all about the messaging. Nobody wants to ban books. And somehow this has been transformed into Republicans want to ban books. There's a huge difference.
Somebody do, Senator. No disrespect, but we had Senator Ed Durr, who's no longer a state senator because he lost his seat after winning the seat from former state Senate President Steve Sweeney. There are books he wants to ban. There are books he wants to ban that have to do with certain issues dealing with homosexuality and transgender issues. I'm not talking about you, but some of your Republican brethren see it very differently than you do.
I never saw that interview. At least the super majority of people who I speak to on my side of the aisle, we support libraries. We support the First Amendment. We support, even things we wholeheartedly disagree with, to be able to have, availability for people to read and have access. I think the argument was really focused on age appropriateness. And just because something merely may have an LGBTQIA theme in it doesn't mean that, it has to be hypersexualized for inappropriate ages. And the nuances of that argument, it's just easier to go out and go, oh, Republicans want to ban books, rather than having a true intellectual discourse on the efficacy of a policy of allowing books that, if they didn't have those themes and were available for kids that age, people would be up in arms. And so, but it's tough sometimes to articulate, particularly when you have tens of millions of dollars coming after you in some of these races, what a reasonable person, oftentimes, if not most of the time, would actually agree with.
And let me ask you this. Orsted, after a potential $1 billion bailout that Governor Murphy had advocated, along with other Democrats, bailed out. They're out of the wind industry. As we tape this program, there's a huge question as to what wind energy will look like in the state. When Orsted, the largest company, I believe, in the world who is involved in wind energy, they're out. Where do you believe Governor Murphy's wind energy, larger clean energy initiative is?
I think in light of the election results, he's going to double down. He's too far into this. His wife is now running for U.S. Senate on kind of this platform. He, regardless of whether or not it's something that is feasible, sustainable, or is even able to be done, I think he's going to go all in on it. And
what does that mean? What does it mean to go all in if the economics don't work for wind energy? If Orsted said, we can't make money on this deal, bailout, subsidy, give us, no, now we're out. Where are the economics on this? A, and B, if that doesn't happen, what happens to the clean energy program in the state?
Well, I think the Energy Master Plan as it currently is untenable and not sustainable. We still have not received from anybody in the administration any sort of real idea as to how many hundreds of billions of dollars it's going to cost the taxpayers of the state. And I think everybody can agree, particularly me as a mom, that we want a clean environment. We want a future for our children or grandchildren, but it's how we implement and how we do this. In my other life, I'm a corporate attorney. I represent an outside small municipal utility company. And the infrastructure upgrades that we are grappling with just for a small little utility in order to even be able to service a small portion of EV and some of these new requirements is in the tens of millions of dollars. So you replicate that all over the state without a grid, without a current infrastructure able to handle it, with moving up timelines and goals that aren't realistic. It's outside of the cost factor, where transmission costs have already increased by 200 to 300% in the past couple of years alone. We're going to be pricing people out of their homes while also collapsing the grid if we don't do this properly. And I think right now there's too much at stake where we want to be the leader in this, that nobody's thinking about the practical implications of how we actually do it.
Senator, let's do this. I want to talk to you about the fentanyl. We got time is tight here. We'll have you back to talk more about this. 30 seconds on the fentanyl crisis, A, and B, the role of the legislature in addressing it.
Fentanyl is one of the biggest risks to our kids right now. People don't understand that a large portion of fentanyl now is being put into counterfeit pills. So people think, it's not heroin, it's not cocaine, it's not this, it's not that, and think that they're getting a Valium or an Ativan or something like that on college campuses. 70% of those pills are counterfeit. They're being manufactured in China, coming up through Mexico. Our border is completely open. And many, if not most of those pills contain a lethal dosage of fentanyl.
And the role of the legislature in dealing with it. 300 young people are dying every day in the United States from fentanyl. Real quickly, the role of the legislature in this.
Enhanced penalties coupled with enhanced education and more mental health resources across the state for our young who are struggling.
Senator Holly Schepisi, the state Senate Republican Conference leader. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
You got it. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
To watch more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
PSE&G is building the utility of the future. A future where people use less energy, and it's cleaner, safer, and delivered more reliably than ever. We are modernizing to lower emissions, support more renewables and electric vehicles, and reduce outages. And we are empowering our customers. At PSE&G, we are powering progress.
We're now joined by Dr. Ben Dworkin, director of the Rowan Institute for Public Policy and Citizenship. Good to see you, Doctor.
Good to see you, Steve. Good to be back.
You got it. We had an election on November the 7th, 2023. All 120 seats in the state legislature are up. Democrats picked up seats in the Senate and the Assembly. Forget about the polling, the politics locally or whatever. Otherwise, what issues mattered, Ben, in that race, and why did the Democrats gain more seats?
Well, I think what we saw is that the Republicans ran on a number of very cutting issues that had really percolated over the last, up into the public consciousness over the last 6 months. They were talking about dead whales. They were talking about issues involving students and schools. They were talking about gas stoves. A lot of these things ginned up some of that Republican base. And in a low turnout election, as was expected, that might have pulled it out. But what we found is that the Democratic issues that they primarily focused on, the double A battery, as I call it, affordability and abortion. And they were really the two moving forces and generated far more. Nobody really expected the kind of Democratic sweeping victories that we saw. I think most people like me thought, all right, can win a few, they can lose a few. We'll see where we are, maybe even end up at the exact same place where we were the day before the election. But to see the Democrats win several seats in the legislature, really and the Republicans effectively shutting out the Republicans. It's like pitching a shutout in the World Series. This was really something that was surprising. And I think it was those issues of affordability and abortion that made the difference.
Yes, it's interesting, Ben. You mentioned the dead whales, right? And a lot of Republicans, particularly down the Jersey Shore, said, look, Governor Murphy's clean energy program, which had a lot to do with wind energy, Ørsted, the largest wind energy producer in the world, I believe, Ben, pulls out of the New Jersey project. The question becomes, and they have these wind turbines that they're building. You know, those dead whales are because of the wind turbines. We don't even know if that's true or not. Did you think the Republicans counted on that issue, particularly down the Jersey Shore, influencing people saying, yeah, the Democrats and Murphy are responsible for dead whales, which sounds compelling. We don't even know if it's true or not. Did they overestimate the value of that, Ben?
I think they overestimated, yes, the value of it. It clearly did not resonate enough. The fact is, the Republicans, largely in terms of legislature, controlled the Jersey Shore. I mean, everybody until
Monmouth County voted for Trump. Huge. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. Until you get to one district, District 11, which was obviously a very competitive. That was where the only Democrat representing the shore, Senator Vin Gopal.
Senator Vin Gopal, and his two assembly candidates won too.
Exactly. He didn't just win. We thought this is a race where millions of dollars have been spent between both sides. Everybody knew this was going to be ground zero. This was a very targeted district, but I don't think anybody really expected Vin Gopal to win with 60% of the vote, which he did. And that was stunning. So I think that was a real rebuke to the whole tying it to whales kind of stuff. But we shouldn't forget, I mean, abortion remained an issue there for Steve Adubato, the Republican candidate, who had a hard time articulating what his position was there. And for voters who are still dealing with a post-Dodd's world, the aftermath of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, this is a primary issue for them, and it got them out to vote, certainly.
You know, we had several Republicans come on. I think it was John DeMaio, the Assembly minority leader, who we were taping an interview earlier today, Ben, and he said, you know, the Democrats, they use the issue of abortion. They manipulate the issue of abortion because we don't have the votes to do anything anyway. And I, without going through all the details of the interview, Ben, I said, yeah, but Assemblyman, if you had control of the Assembly and the Senate and you could make the choice, would you not change abortion, attempt to change the legislation, the law of the land in New Jersey as it relates to abortion and being able to have an abortion in the 9th month? And he said, yes, but we don't have the numbers. I said, yeah, but if you won, you would have done that. And I'm not saying right or wrong. That's not my place. But my point is, Ben, do you believe the Republicans are perplexed as a party as to where they want to be on abortion, other than just saying what they really think? Because it's not a winning issue per se. Does it make any sense?
I think it was a lot easier when you had Roe v. Wade as the law of the land, and you got to then say, I am pro-life, I'm ready to overturn it, because it didn't mean much. You weren't going to be held to account. You know, and I've written about this, several months ago, and I think many other observers have noted it too. The moment you took the decisions about how to regulate the use of this procedure of abortion and put it back to the states, you can have states like Alabama, you can have states like Texas, which are going to impose severe restrictions. You can have places like New Jersey where it's not popular. The problem was that now legislators, it's in their court. And so they had to come up with
it's real now, Ben.
And now they have to be called to account. And so people are saying, well, what is your position? And you had any number of Republicans who tried to deflect, who tried to pivot to talk about the other things that they wanted to talk about. You had Democrats hammering. Then you had outside groups getting involved because it's suddenly, no, this is not something that is getting decided by 9 people in black robes anymore. Now, decisions like this, whether we're going to be a state like Texas or whether we're going to be a state like Florida, whether we're going to be a state that is in tune with the people of New Jersey, these issues like abortion are really coming home, and I think is going to generate a number of folks who want to get involved, and I think that's why we saw the results we did.
Before I let you go, Ben, we're doing this program in November, toward the back end of November. It looks like Tammy Murphy's going to run for the United States Senate seat. Bob Menendez, 8, 9, 10% approval rating in the last poll I saw. Question, got a minute left. Tammy Murphy running for the U.S. Senate, the wife of Governor Murphy, the First Lady. She has every right to run. But for those who say, hey, wait a minute, where's this coming from? Tom Moran and NJ.com, read it, said, can't we do better? Shouldn't we do better? Thoughts on this? Is it a lock?
No, it's not a lock. It's never been done. I mean, that's the thing that we're talking about. We've seen spouses who replace their husband, a female spouse who replaces the husband who died in office. And so you have Lindy Boggs in Louisiana taking over Hale Boggs, who was a sort of a legendary majority leader of the House when he tragically died in a plane accident. So you have things like that. But this to sort of have a sitting governor and to have his wife, who is a qualified candidate. I mean, she has been involved in this administration.
Maternal health.
She has staked out maternal health has been a big issue for her. So I think she has a lot to bring. And that's when we're going to turn it over to the voters. For people who aren't going to buy it, who don't like her, or choose somebody else, then they'll get to choose. That's the way this will work, and that's the way it should be.
Ben Dworkin, talk about democracy and where we are. Talk to Dr. Ben Dworkin, director of the Rowan Institute for Public Policy and Citizenship, Rowan Higher Ed, one of our higher ed partners. Ben, thanks, my friend. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steve.
You got to stay with us. We'll be right back.
To watch more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Hello, I'm Donald Payne Jr., Congressman from New Jersey's 10th District. One organ and tissue donor can save as many as 8 lives and improve the health of another additional 75 people. That is why I encourage everyone to register as an organ donor. For more information about organ donation, please visit www.njsharingnetwork.org.
We're honored to have the Honorable Senator Bob Smith, who's chair of the Senate Environment and Education Committee. Good to see you, Senator.
Good. Environment and Energy Committee. Yes, sir.
I screwed up. Actually, back in the day, I served on the Assembly Environment and Energy Committee. I just screwed it up.
It's okay.
Maybe that's why I lost the election.
If that's the worst mistake you make in 2023, you're in great shape.
Thank you. And we're moving into 2024. This will be seen a little bit later. Hey, do this for us. I'm going to talk about the power grid in a second, which you're the leading member of the legislature talking about it. We'll make sense of it. But Orsted, 4 months before they decide to leave, Governor Murphy proposes a $1 billion tax credit to keep Orsted here involved in wind energy. And they go, listen, we can't make this work. Supply chain, inflation, we're out of here. Did they give New Jersey the shaft, A? And B, what the heck happens with wind energy now, Senator?
So, A, they did give us the shaft. I don't think they were dealing with our government in an honest way. All right. They were the ones who brought to us the fact that the interest rates had gone up by 6 percentage points. Blockchain was a nightmare. Getting materials was a nightmare. And they needed extra help. So we did it. We allowed them to get the tax credit. And by the way, none of that money's gone to them. You know, the taxpayers of New Jersey are going to ultimately benefit from it. But we listened to them and we tried to get them because they were at the moment, they were the biggest single vendor of wind energy off the Jersey coast. And we've already a port for wind energy facilities, Paulsboro, New Jersey. And we saw tremendous benefits to our jobs and revenues in the state of New Jersey. But if you're not going to do it, don't tell us a lie. Tell us the truth. Because it just ended up with a lot of egg on everybody's face. But to answer your second question, we're not giving up on wind. We have one of the best offshore wind resources in the world. Not in the United States, in the world. So you will see wind energy in our future, but it won't be Orsted.
Senator, hold on. A quick follow-up to that. Sorry for interrupting. People say, hey, wait a minute. What about the whales? Wind energy. Could you clarify what's real and what's BS?
Sure. So the real is that there are more than 4 studies by different agencies, different groups, scientifically based, with real scientists doing the math, the investigation, and every single one of them says there's no impact on whales from windmills. And by the way, we have no windmills up at this point, as well, as everybody knows. So it's not any current windmills that are hurting them. In Europe, they didn't have that experience. And the truth of the matter is there are, I hate to say it in American politics, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but you have the whole fossil industry not wanting to see windmills and wind energy take off. So they have a couple of operatives in this game who are trying to scare the public that somehow we're hurting our fisheries, and we're not. You know, the legislature, the governor, we're all in this together, and we love our coast. We love the Jersey Shore. We're not going to let it get hurt by anything.
Real quick follow-up. Senator Tony Bucco, your colleague, has come on many times saying, we're climate change is real. We want to be a part of the solution. But the governor, Senator Smith, and others, doesn't mention you by name, but the Democrats won't tell us the real cost of this, A, and B. Plus, you know, the governor wants to come and take your stove anyway. What's real? What's BS again?
Baloney on top of baloney on top of baloney. Nobody wants to take anybody's stove or any of their appliances. What the governor and the legislature are trying to do is to provide incentives, not demands, not laws saying you have to change anything over, but giving you incentives for you to use electric appliances and more electrification of buildings, but not penalties against you if you don't. And the reason for that is the way that we make serious progress on the carbon emissions in the Garden State is by electrifying everything, but having the source of electricity be renewable electricity, not from burning coal or oil or even natural gas.
All right. The power grid. What is it, Senator? And why should we be concerned, please?
So it's bobby pins and chewing gum. Now you have to be old to remember bobby pins, but it is very ad hoc. It's always been ad hoc. It's been for whatever was needed in town 27 or over here on the western side of the state. It's very, very fragile, and that's a problem because before as an example, you can install a grid scale solar facility with lots of renewable energy. You have to arrange for what's called an interconnection. You have to be able to connect to the grid so that the renewable electricity can go all over the state or into the PJM system. The way electricity, the rules work, you have to be very careful when you interconnect into a grid, because if you imbalance the grid, you're going to get a blackout. Not a meltdown, but a blackout. And so the answer is that when you try to do the interconnection, it's going to take you a year to get an approval, at least a year. And by that time, the deal is dead. That's the problem. We have to make our grid resilient. We had an opportunity after Sandy. We didn't take. If you remember, BPU said to all the utilities, tell us what you need to make a sustainable grid. They did. And then the ratepayer advocate said cost too much. And they were all cut back tremendously. So we don't have a resilient grid. We don't have a grid that right now, if you had a grid scale plan together for an enormous open space out in the western side of the state, you wouldn't be able to get it set up. You can't.
Okay, Senator, it's really cold right now, but when it's summertime, this is real. This is real, and this can impact people's lives.
Big time.
Before I let you go, how high a priority is this for the legislature and the governor right now?
It's not the highest. I'm going to try in the next term to make it the highest priority. Because the truth is, if we want to survive as a species, we better get going. Global climate change is real, and it's killing us. I mean, think about the 29 people who died in that rainstorm that we got from Mississippi about 2 years ago. All right, there's no reason they should have died. Water was coming down in place in New Jersey where it had never fallen before, and that's because we've changed the planet. The atmosphere is now holding more moisture as it warms up, and when it comes down in ocean loads.
We will keep talking with State Senator Bob Smith, the chair of the Senate Environment and Energy Committee. Good to see you, Senator.
Good to see you.
All right, Steve Adubato, Senator Smith. See you next time.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by PSE&G, New Jersey Sharing Network, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Holy Name, PSC, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, IBEW Local 102, Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, New Brunswick Development Corporation. And by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State. And by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ. And by CIA-NJ and Commerce Magazine.
PSE&G is building the utility of the future. A future where people use less energy, and it's cleaner, safer, and delivered more reliably than ever. We are modernizing to lower emissions, support more renewables and electric vehicles, and reduce outages. And we are empowering our customers. At PSE&G, we are powering progress.
Hello, I'm Donald Payne Jr., Congressman from New Jersey's 10th District. One organ and tissue donor can save as many as 8 lives and improve the health of another additional 75 people. That is why I encourage everyone to register as an organ donor. For more information about organ donation, please visit www.njsharingnetwork.org.
At the Community Food Bank of New Jersey.
We are working.
Now more than ever.
To fill the emptiness caused by hunger.
We are the state's largest anti-hunger organization.
And together with our 800+ community partners,
we are committed to delivering food,
help,
and hope
to our hundreds and thousands of neighbors in need.